But sorry, Sick still rocking with us. Smile. You know, like that kind of shit right there. You know, it hits me nice. It hits me nice.
That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice.
Yeah. Sometimes Facebook doesn't it just wants to disconnect and shit, and like that. The good thing
You
is
can't like connect back through your phone or something. Like
no, it doesn't. Once you'd
have to stop the feed. And
I'd have to stop the feed and come back, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even.
Yeah, this is why I don't fuck with Facebook anymore.
Well, you know what? For as long as we were on there, it's fine because YouTube, even if it disconnects, it'll come back up and it'll be like 2 videos and whatnot. But
doesn't that mean we lost Steve?
Steve been gone.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Steve had to bounce out. But yeah, man, that's what we talking about. So like, this kind of shit right here is
Titties.
titties on the track. But yeah, man, you know, let me make sure we still in the vibe. Yeah, baby. See.
We came back on?
No. I'm making sure like Twitch and now and all of that is still back up. Oh, we back. Facebook is back.
Well, tell Facebook to go fuck itself.
Fuck, we're back. And like after I shared all that shit, you know what I'm saying? Now the feed deads and then it comes back. But it's okay. At least they've worked it out to where it comes back because before it didn't come back at all. You know what I mean? So, but now we start off with, you know, and Sick, thank you for chilling with us. He had to peace out.
Thank you, Sick. Pleasure.
Yeah, that dude's he's one of my day ones. He's one of my day ones. You know what I'm saying? And he always when he comes in, he always hosts the channel. You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up. See, that's one of those guys that I was telling you about.
Like one of the people I really want to be a part of this. You know what I mean? And people who'd watch this legit.
One day we'll have him on the fucking show.
Oh shit, yeah, dude. Yeah,
if you're ever in New York, bro.
Yeah, let us know. GodMode Studios with a Z at the end. gmail.com. Let us know. Come be on the show. Let's talk some shit because now we can. And you know what? Let me just bring this up one more time because it looks quite lovely. Blow. There's a microphone ready for you. There's all that ready for you. You know what I'm saying? So come by and let's see what noise we can make. You know what I'm saying? Because I get musicians always told me, yo, let's just make some noise, man. I'm with that. Let's make noise.
There better be some melody in that noise.
Well, if we're listening to that heavy metal shit that you listen to, I don't know, man. You know, but so yeah, man. So that's
how long have we been running?
We have been running so far for an hour and 20 minutes.
I think it's time for a little break. Can we go on a break?
We can go on a break.
I gotta take a piss.
Yeah, you could just go, man.
All right, I'll be back, ladies and gentlemen.
You could just go and do what you got to do on that hydration end there, or dehydration end, or whatever.
Можно еще, кури.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna take a little bit of a break. The show is still live. We still in progresso.
Put on a track or two.
Yeah, I think I just might right quick put us a little playlist together. There we go. Yeah. Woo! We on break. Smoke time. Nice little
What's up,
smoke
what's
break.
up?
Nice little smoke break. You know, we
break.
had to do it. Jay Breeze was watching for a minute. Now he's gone.
Because
Like-
we were gone.
Like the Jay Breeze he is.
What up to Jake?
But yo, Elon Musk, Pop.
Oh, yeah.
Neuralink. We was just talking about that outside. I figured we had to bring this inside and kind of talk about it.
Yeah, it was... What did I want
The
to say?
prototypes that he's got
Yeah.
out now.
Is
And
Neuralink the company? He announced that it existed. And he announced what the plans were.
that was on the Joe Rogan podcast when he did
What,
that.
yeah?
Yeah.
I don't, yeah,
Well,
yeah, that's
he was
right,
already
that's
in
right.
progress. He said that there was something within a month that he had,
Yes.
you know, back then that he
So
was
I
gonna-
looked up on it because I've been, I try to keep tabs on it because it sounds like an amazing advance in just like human biotech and all that shit.
Right.
But for the longest time, Neuralink, the company, existed, but it was just very on the DL, and
Right.
no one would release any kind of information. If you go to their website, it was literally just a single page, really plain text, just the logo up top, and like openings for job positions if you want to apply and stuff like that. If
Okay.
you want to be a tech, et cetera,
Okay.
an engineer. And then finally, a little bit ago, they've released their first announcements of how far they've gotten, which I think actually was their very first release since they announced the company. And they finally have a working prototype of what they call neural lace, and essentially they created some kind of, I think it's silicone based, but an elastic threading that has like transistors and stuff built and sewn throughout that can send and receive information. And they physically suture it into your brain. And they haven't done it on humans yet, obviously, but I think they've done it with
Looks something like
mice
that.
or something. I don't know what it looks like. I didn't actually see it, just the announcements of it. But they developed some kind of machine to do the surgery. Right now, it requires like a physical surgery to open up your skull and physically sew everything onto there, and then you have these lace that protrudes out and
Right, and then
combines
it-
with
and
some
it
kind of
hooks up.
chip.
Like something like this here is what we're trying to.
Oh, no.
No,
Even less.
less intrusive than
Yeah.
that.
And well, actually very, very intrusive, but that's like a helmet. And I think what it's doing in that picture specifically that you're showing, it's a helmet that's picking up like brainwaves and all that stuff.
Right.
This is a physical link with essentially elastic wiring that hooks up to your brain and is able to send and receive information with an interface.
That's insane.
So we're like this close. I can't wait to hear about the next release. I don't know
Right.
if it's going to come in a year or 2 years, but I'm going to be watching like a hawk.
Yeah.
Because once that happens,
As
bro,
you should be.
holy shit. Holy fucking shit.
But
That's going to be the next step in human evolution, 100%.
But think about the possibilities that actually unlocks.
You're like making music and being able to send your brain wobbles into the machine.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, being able to manipulate a piano, just
my
by
mind.
you know, and you don't have to know the notes, as long as the sound is there of what you're trying to accomplish. That sound will come up. That's
You'll be able to communicate with anything. What you'll end up having is like some kind of receiver that's just on your person that's connected to your brain physically. And then the moment you think, you're going to have to train yourself, because I kind of understand the way this works, because some minor experimentation was done before Neuralink, the company was even
how
formed.
does it work?
Essentially, certain brain patterns, when you think about certain stuff, acts like a button trigger. And when you think about that thing, and the way you train it is basically you would, like let's say you do hard math in your head.
Right.
That will trigger particular neurons to fire. And then those neurons firing will activate a specific function. And that function is like you pushing that button, and it'll do whatever it is that it's programmed to do when you think about that process.
Okay.
And you train your brain to essentially push buttons without pushing buttons.
Right.
So with practice, and this will take practice, it's not going to be completely intuitive immediately. You're going to train your brain to manipulate your environment. And it's going to be fucking amazing. I can't wait. This blew my mind. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, dude. I thought that this was going to be a company that popped up. He was going to do some experimentation, and then he was going to flop because it takes too much time, too much research, too much experimentation. There's all these, like human violation things and
Yes.
medical practice that is going to violate.
That would
you can't-
roadblock some research
Exactly.
like this.
But he's claiming that he's like right there. He's inches away, which gets me super excited.
Yes.
Imagine now, okay, like we have auto driving cars, right? The car is in control, driving you automatically through AI. And if you don't want that, you drive with your hands.
Right.
What if you just drove with your mind and you think about making a right turn and the car makes a turn? You're
make
still in control of the car.
You better make sure you have a clear mind if you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because we have a lot of static that goes on in our minds on, you know, when we idle. You know, that's why those tanks that they have, isolation tanks, are so interesting to me. And in fact, I'd like
teach you how to control your brain.
Well, at least it'll let you hear what's happening. Because I would love to actually put myself into an isolation tank at some point in time. Thank you, Joe Rogan.
That shit is trippy from what I hear, because completely isolating yourself from sensory input is something that most people have never experienced.
Right.
And it's terrifying for a lot of people.
At first. And that's
Then it's liberating.
Right. So I would like to, at some point, experience that. You know what I mean?
Where I want that tech to go first, though, this is the complete dork geek nerd in me talking, is you see the gaming VR tech that's coming out nowadays, right?
And it's still in its infant stages.
Yes. Now imagine you put in that Neuralink and Neuralace into involvement with video games.
Well,
now I don't mind holding that gun. What's that that VR thing that you know? There's a platform you can run, you can walk, and you hold the gun.
The 360 degree. What do they call it? Omnidirectional treadmill.
Right.
That's what it is.
So, but you still have to control the menus and stuff at the very least with your hands.
Yes.
So imagine if you're standing in an omnidirectional treadmill and you have your play gun and you're playing Modern Warfare or whatever it is that you're playing, or Skyrim, and instead of having to press start, you know, you can swing the swords the way you want to because that's what you want to do when you're playing the game or shoot the gun.
Right.
But now you don't have to pause the game with a button or look through menus. You can just think about, I want to equip this and that, and just automatically do it and continue. Sorry, I geeked out.
No, that's not geek at all, because well, it is, but it's not bad at all, because I was thinking about that myself, because I seen a really interesting video this guy put together, he was like, just a normal cat, don't even know what he does. I watched it for a few minutes, but the idea correlated right up, like it bloomed in me and sparked my interest, because you know I'm always on the search to lose a little weight. You know, the gut is always like this, and I'm a gamer, and this guy was on that same trip, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna get one of these omnidirectional treadmills, I'm gonna get the gun, all this shit, and I'm gonna play Modern Warfare, and we'll see what happens.
Burn some calories
over the course of a month. And apparently, so he did within the course of a month. And you see the guy, like you see when he gets into this shit, and he's sweating balls, and he's like, oh, this shit is hard. Oh my God, I can't. No. This guy, I think within a month, without changing his diet, without changing anything, just doing this, I think he lost like 26 pounds.
It's amazing.
Just doing that. So, and that's just one common interest, you know. You wanted to lose weight, but again, it's going to get more immersive. And with something like Neuralink, if it makes it, like you said,
seamless integration with technology.
Seamless integration. Now you're going to get philosophical questions that drop into it. Like,
watch Westworld.
Oh my God, watch Westworld. And the philosophical questions is like, what is real now?
Right. Like, you know what's real, but is that really real? Or how do you define that? Right. What is the difference between that real and this real?
Right. Because you're switching the sensory input from hand, you know, from sight, touch, you know,
your external bodily.
The feel might take a little more
systems.
time. The feel might take a little more time, but full body suits already exist. Like, this guy didn't have it, but there are full body suits to where you get shot. There's like little, like almost hammers that are on there.
Like Ready Player One?
Right.
Oh my God.
They go, and they hit you and you get shot. Like, it's like, holy shit. They already have that. And Ready Player One is a very good example of where it can go. Watch movie Ready Player One. You know,
I can't wait. We're on the verge of this.
Within
our lifetime,
yes,
we might see
within
Ready
our
Player
lifetime,
One, or
yes.
at least like the first
iteration.
right. Some sloppy, really not functioning well iteration of it. But if I live to see that day, I'm gonna be very happy.
Well, the good thing is, guys like us by then are going to be old, not able to move.
Plug me in, motherfucker.
Yeah, plug me in, and you know,
plug me into the Matrix.
Some people get really frightened by that thought, though, of plugging in. Like that right there scares them because you know now you don't know what's real. You're not in control. This and this and this. But I mean,
it's a matter of interpretation.
In reality, are
you
in control now?
Right. Well, and you are, but like then, are you also in control when you're plugged in?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're just interpreting your environment and using your sensory system in a different sort of capacity.
But that system was built by somebody else, and that's where the fear and the reptilian brain kick in.
How they can use that to manipulate your reality.
Correct. And that right there,
the corruption of virtual reality.
Right. A lot of the dogma that comes in, and I mean, in the same instance, probably on the same speed. Holographic technology is coming in on that same reality, and then you're gonna have for the porno addicts out there, you know what I'm saying? Instead of course, that's the first place I would go when you would tell me holographic technology, because now you don't just see the two girls making out on the screen, you see them making out on your bed.
I think we're actually gonna skip all that. Because the whole holographic technology, as cool as it is, it requires a whole different set of kind of technology, and it ends up being more clunky than just putting yourself into a virtual reality. It's easier to go into a virtual reality and simulate your senses through suits and everything else.
Right.
I can't wait until we have that real life 2.0. Have you heard of Life 2.0?
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it in...
The full fruition of Life 2.0 would be the virtual reality environment with all those, like Ready Player One, essentially.
Right,
that would be like the full iteration of Life 2.0.
So what is Life 2.0?
It's like a social digital community of people, but it's essentially... They just make avatars online, and they try to simulate real life to the best of their abilities. But it's like cartoony sort of avatars.
What do you actually do though?
You customize how your character looks. You get a house. You can walk around town, and like you can meet at the bar with whoever and so, and you see their avatar and you communicate with them. It's really a social platform, but it's completely digital. And they bank on your. How they make money and everything else is selling the skins and being able to customize your environment and your character.
Can you earn those things?
I'm not sure. I never really I just know of its existence. But once this whole virtual reality and like Neuralace and the Oculus, once all of that really merges and integrates, you're going to have like Life 3.0. Life 3.0. And we're right there, this close.
Now, what kind of things do you think or foresee would happen with real life?
With real life,
Once Life 3.0,
I have a very good idea because I watched a cartoon that I think mimicked it perfectly.
And what is that?
What the hell was it called? It was that with that little robot. That's literally what it's gonna be. Everyone was fat, floating around in a little floaty chair.
Yes.
But they're basically plugged into Life 3.0, and that's
do
what I foresee.
Do you think that's actually going to be a reality when people are going to lose themselves in this and not just come outside?
Yes, but I don't think it's going to be like everyone's going to be overweight. I actually think it's going to be the opposite. People are going to start losing muscle mass, losing bone density. Everyone's going to be much thinner and skinnier, and God knows where physiologically that's going to lead us generation to generation.
As a physical therapist, right. Well, why don't you fill us in on that?
Well, it's just you need movement. Your bodies were designed to move from the very get-go. If you don't move, if you don't use your body, you lose those functions. You lose the flexibility. You lose the range of motion of your joints and your muscular capacity and everything else. We were literally designed as a species to be a moving, working being.
Right. for the fight or flight mechanism.
All
from,
that
from back
hunting
in the
and
day.
gathering,
Right.
like everything requires you to, run, jump, skip, hunt, climb,
Right.
kill, bang, fuck, etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right.
If you remove all that into a digital age, no one's really going to be doing any of that. Well, I'm maybe not no one, but you understand.
You're
where I'm
right,
going.
but the majority of the people that would be plugged in.
If it gets to that extreme level, what you're going to see is a lot of very weak kind of.
Now, but on that sense, how do you think it would affect the world economically?
Economically, probably there would be a giant boom. I think intellectual property is going to go through the roof. There's going to be a lot less like manual labor kind of things. Everyone's going to be about producing creative content, skins and music and entertainment and movies, anything that you could entertain yourself with from the comfort of
the VR setup,
right?
Whatever that setup may be,
and anything that requires movement is probably going to end up being automated. We're going to have machines doing all of that. That's going to be the future.
So like my job.
Your job is going to be replaced.
Yeah.
Almost everyone's job is going to be replaced. But this is like way down the line.
Well, what's way down the line? 20 years, 30 years?
No, not
20
20
years.
or 30. Way longer than that. Way longer than that. But I foresee the end result of all of this is actually almost a liberation, depending on how it goes, because it can go very, very negatively ultimately, or very positively, where on the positive end you have something more like this, like the Star Trek community,
right,
where everyone is free to really dedicate themselves to some kind of passion, as opposed to doing jobs just to survive, where food is no longer that big of a deal. Everything is able to be automated and produced, and everyone can now dedicate and free themselves to do the things that they love to do,
right,
and create and produce.
right.
And then the downside of that would be if everyone just becomes a lazy, receptive fuckwad, just sitting in a chair. What's up?
What's going on, Rev? Talk to us. Tell us what you think about this whole thing. Tell us what you think the evolution of the human mind integrating.
Like, there might
VR.
not be any need for money, even like in Star Trek.
Thank
no one
you for the
really
follow-up.
even has
Appreciate it.
a paycheck anymore,
Right.
because
But
things
here's the
like
next
that
thing.
don't serve a purpose anymore.
Is it going to be digital? How will we make money in the digital world?
You might not need to make money in the digital world.
Right, but you're still outside in the physical world.
Outside.
That's where you're still plugged in somewhere.
Right, you're plugged in, but because everything is so automated and labor isn't really necessarily needed so much anymore, all of these things to produce become very, very cheap, and resources hopefully will be plentiful.
Well, let me rephrase. Where would you see this technology in the next 20 years?
In the next 20 years, not very far.
What's not very far, in your opinion?
Not very far. We're going to see very, very clunky iterations of like neural lace, where we're able to do word processing and web surfing with our minds instead of with keyboards.
But how about the other stuff, such as VR goggles, the 360-degree
VR
treadmills,
entertainment and
stuff?
Education is gonna skyrocket. You'll be able to entertain yourself and attend school, and you say you're into
even
history.
trade school, I would say. With that
Even
kind of
trade
stuff.
school, yeah, because now you can learn how to be a mechanic and fix cars from the comfort of your VR set.
Right, and they have.
You can be a surgeon from the comfort of your VR set. It all becomes a matter of how proficient the engineers and the programmers are to recreating a certain environment to be super accurate.
Mm-hmm. Well, like they had.
Once all that is done, though, because it's only going to need to be done once or twice.
True.
Then you won't even need those engineers necessarily anymore, because it's going to all be done through the AI system.
Right.
Once the infrastructure for it is created, those people would not need those jobs anymore. The computer will be able to do it.
They'd just be glorified updaters.
If that even is required, there's going to be a certain generation where all those workers are going to be not in existence anymore,
right?
And it would just be nothing but receptive consumers.
But how about the acquisition of natural resources, all that thing? You think they're just going to be mechanical?
It could also, it could, again, theoretically speaking, if we get that far in terms of our AI capabilities and computers and quantum computing and everything else, all of that can be automated.
How long do you think we are away from quantum?
A while.
From quantum
computing?
The quantum computing plateau that's going to hit.
Plateau? Oh, dude.
Well, because I
couldn't predict
there's going to
like
be
that.
a plateau. And once the plateau hits, then you're going to be closer to the Star Trek generation in regards to.
If there's a
there
plateau
is no
for
more.
that,
There's no more faster that you can get. Now you're just going to get a terminal.
if there's a plateau for that, it's not for a very long time, because the kind of computing capabilities of quantum is so beyond what we understand right now. I couldn't even answer your question. Once we can practically use quantum computing, it's like exponentially way crazier computing capabilities. And you can crunch, like, the process of AI, you can break down the human brain into a bunch of, there's actually a very, very cool book written by the guy who essentially started the AI program at MIT, where it's called, I think it's called Society of Mind. Read it. It's very, very cool.
Okay.
But he breaks down the human cognitive processes into a series of steps. It ends up being just a decision tree. The only reason we can't really simulate it so much right now is because it just takes so many trees and decision trees and so much external learning and sensory input.
If then.
Right, exactly. It's just a really, really complicated, long if-then statement that branches out.
Right.
If we have enough quantum computing capability, you could probably theoretically create almost a perfect AI human being and not be able to tell the difference, because they'll be able to function just as well as you can, because your brain goes through those same exact decision trees.
Well, all right. So on that same branch, how about consciousness transfer?
I have no idea. That's a whole other animal. That's like existential stuff that I couldn't even touch. Consciousness?
Yeah.
What is consciousness?
The here and the now.
I couldn't tell you if, well, again, that's like, you have to define that a little bit more thoroughly. Like,
how
is consciousness, how do you define that?
My
Is it the sum of those decision trees? I wouldn't say that.
Well, here's there was a research done. Don't quote me. I don't know who did it, but they were saying, okay, so let's say that you were able to create a synthetic neuron.
We already can, I think.
But here's the thing. So now you replace one synthetic neuron in your brain. Okay. So it does the same thing that a regular neuron would do, without information.
Well, what do neurons do? All they do is
fire electricity.
Traffic information.
Right. So now, what followed?
It's a very complicated computer.
Followed a big picture. Now I start replacing more neurons and more neurons.
Well, let's just say you replace all of them.
But here's the thing. Would that be the consciousness transfer that we're talking about?
We would have to first define what we think consciousness is. How do you define that? You would really, that's the first place you would start. If consciousness is simply, like, there's a famous test regarding
uninterrupted
AI.
Feed is what I think consciousness is.
Well, you can have an uninterrupted feed right now, but it wouldn't necessarily be consciousness. Again, what is conscious? If you want to say that it's something that's like self-aware and is able to make decisions, you can make a very rudimentary version of that right now.
And they have, in fact.
Right. So, but if you take like the brain, the reason why the brain is so complicated and we can't necessarily create a computerized brain right now, is that all those neurons are able to interact with each other independently and concurrently with each other all times, and sometimes not, sometimes yes, and it's like the interactions are any which way. Whereas the way our computers are built right now, it's kind of very, very linear, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there's only a limited possibilities of ifs and thens.
So theoretically, if you took a computer and you, like, it would go back to like the crazy mainframe stations of yesteryear with IBM, where the computer was an entire room.
Right.
With our capabilities right now, let's just say we did that again, and we built a computer that's like the size of a building, and we're able to synthesize all the decision trees that your brain can do now, and we also program in all the possible responses that you could do, because you could theoretically program that manually
by statistics.
Exactly. It would just take a very long time. It would take a whole lot of resources. Right. The only reason we don't have it is because no one sat down and funded and actually done the work to do this.
Do that shit.
No.
Do that shit.
We don't necessarily want that. Elon Musk does not necessarily recommend that.
And he recommends integrating with it before it happens.
Exactly. Yes, he does. If you can't beat him, join him.
Right. And I think...
But theoretically, we could do that now. It's just a matter of taking the time and the resources to sit down and do all of that programming.
Right.
But is that still consciousness? No. Maybe, maybe not. It depends on how you define consciousness. Because I can make a simulation that would trick you into thinking you're talking to a human being, but it's really a program.
Right.
But does that program have consciousness? Yes. No.
In a way,
maybe.
You're right. That's very good.
I don't know.
It's a very good premise. You know, on that note.
That is the current test that we have right now for AI. What we want to do. I don't remember what it's called. It's not. Is it the Turing test? I don't think it's the Turing test. I think that's something else. I don't remember what the name of it is. But essentially, if I put a computer like behind a screen where you can't see it, and you interact with it and have a conversation with it, and then I ask you, were you talking to a real person or were you talking to a machine? And you can't answer me.
That's when you know you're on that
right.
cusp.
But technically speaking, that, you know, if it was a machine, that all of that was programmed. It's still a machine. It's not human.
Right.
Is it conscious? Is it not conscious? I don't fucking know.
Well, they had those tests where they made those humanoid kind of robots, and then they had them talk like different companies, and then they had them talk to each other, and then the first thing
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The first thing they started talking about is like world domination, and
Alexa, and
and how they could get rid of humanity.
Now, their decision trees were very, very basic and super linear. Now, imagine you took a group of programmers and you locked them in a room and you paid them a lot of money to sit there and program all those if statements that you mentioned, basically, for like as many possibilities and branches as you can, and even integrate something like, I think it's called a recurrent loop. No, that's not what it's called. I forget the name of it all. There's a term for it. But basically something where it ends up making decisions for itself. But that's still just like a program code. Is that consciousness? Maybe yes, maybe no. Is that what our brain does? I don't know.
Well, you see, that just got me thinking about.
I think the differences becomes like, I guess, like emotion kind of plays a role.
Well, our body plays a role. Thirst, hunger, horny, that kind of thing.
In consciousness, yes. It might make a difference in
our.
It
affects us. It affects
it affects our decisions.
The decision trees. But I think when we talk about integration, my opinion would that be is replace small parts until there's nothing to replace and you're still you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How far can you go replacing aspects of yourself before you are no longer yourself and you are now something else?
That's the philosophical question.
Right.
And I don't think the technology's there yet, but I think we're about 10 years away.
Right, it's not.
I think we're about 10 years away from where
and if we have that quantum computing stuff that we were talking about before, it'll be that much easier because the processes are just so much more powerful. You can crunch way more information way quicker.
You can actually crunch what the brain crunches.
More than what the brain crunches, even.
And that right there is the next evolution. That almost begs to differ.
But is that consciousness?
Well, it begs to ask the question, were we designed to spawn AI?
Mm-hmm.
It's
fully capable, so I don't see why not. We weren't. I mean, like I said, like, were we designed? Are you alluding to like God? Did God design us to spawn AI?
Well,
you have to assume.
Well,
many things.
I would lean towards evolution. Does the next step in evolution require us to merge with technology in order to
a step? Say we became. Sorry, guys. Say we became a species that never did anything technological,
right? And
we kept to our, traditional cultures, and we stuck to, farming or hunting, gathering, whatever, and we kind of lived a very, very natural sort of lifestyle,
right?
And we developed. We would end up developing socially and culturally very, very much, right? And we have very strong communities.
But that's lacking the curiosity that the reptilian brain has.
Not necessarily. There's plenty of stuff out there. What do you mean lack of curiosity? The curiosity.
Well, curiosity is in inventions because the things that brought us to this point.
So we would invent things in a different way. I'm saying, like, theoretically, if we did all that, like, we would still be evolving in some sort of fashion. It just wouldn't be technologically based necessarily, or a different kind of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing AI and doing that whole integration with AI and the whole computer thing. That's a step in a kind of evolution.
Well, that's what's available, more or less,
at the moment. Right. But there's other things available also.
It's like if we were to take the Fallout universe for a fact, if nuclear technology developed,
right? That's another step in evolution.
Where it was usable to a practical degree in making a car or a toaster. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it never evolved past that due to dogma and, the implementation of the technology that just kind of looked at it and went, no, this is not acceptable in everyday use. But like when you think about it, the foot X-ray machines back in the day, where you can put your foot in it and it tells you like the size of your shoe. That was dead ass radiation, but we didn't know about it. But like, so right now, what's available to us is going to be
this AI technology thing. But that was just circumstantial, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree that it
could have stepped in a very different evolutionary direction. But the way we happen to develop, we depended a lot on electronic technology and et cetera, when we made computers. It didn't have to go that way.
True. We were almost being water, making things easier for ourselves.
This was just the way it happened.
Right. But like
in this reality.
Really? So let's touch on that.
No.
No, that's just gonna be something.
That's another can of worms.
Okay.
Half the stuff I said already was like halfway out my ass because again I don't have any references or resources in front of me.
But just because we don't know, see, we can theorize. And that right there is powerful enough to where you can make kind of deductive assumptions as to where it could lead, because like a lot of the in the 1950s they were thinking of like what 2020 was going to look like, and we're supposed to be flying cars by now.
Well, my prediction is that it can go one of two ways. Our current trajectory will lead us either in Star Trek type of community, and that's no joke, that's very legit. Very legit. A Star Trek sort of community, or an Eva sort of community. Eva is that I don't remember if that's the name of the cartoon, but that was with the little robot and everyone's fat and floating in a chair.
Yeah.
And everyone's patched into, like plugged in essentially, and it's nothing but commercials, and you're just, a fat ass floating in a chair being receptive to stuff.
How close do you think we've come to idiocracy?
Idiocracy?
Yeah.
You know what? At one point, I thought that we were coming very close, but I actually don't. I think that we were very, very wrong. Idiocracy is a very entertaining train of thought,
right,
which is super positive, but I don't think we'll ever get there.
Thank God.
Definitely thank God. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get there. There's plenty of stupid people out there, but believe me, the amount of smart people and how smart they are, way more than tip the balance in their favor.
That's a good thing. That's a very
because
good
those
thing.
Smart people are the ones that inevitably shape our lives and our environment, whether it's for the better or for the worse. That's totally arguable, but they're gonna shape it in the way that they see fit. That's the more scary part.
Well, it also leads us to the point of genetics, because most of the time the people that are game changers and trendsetters, they're not normal, and most of the time they statistically have some kind of genetic mishaps in there.
Sometimes, yes.
Obsessive compulsive, as an example.
Autistic.
So, like, exactly. So what?
What's his face? What did they say? Einstein and like Isaac Newton. With the way we view psychology today, a lot of medical scientists believe that they were probably on the spectrum and had something like Asperger's.
Right.
Because they were very antisocial, had horrible social skills. They had, lots of repetitive sort of, like a lot of basically autistic traits were there. And they shaped basically our entire reality of today.
Field.
Way more than that. Your entire reality as you experience it today was shaped by Einstein and Isaac Newton, essentially.
Now, think about it this way. Now, within the next 10 years, I know that genetics is going to come a long way, probably in tandem with, what we're talking about in regards to technology and integration and all that stuff. And the big thing on the table now is to systematically take out genetic disorders out of new babies.
Can't wait. It's going to be dope. Oh. It's Kai.
Kai, pick it up. That's our next guest.
Hey, what's up, man? That's all right.
Tell him he's live.
Well, we're live right now. You're literally on camera. Well, I mean, you're not
Well, you're on
exactly. I'm
camera,
on
but
camera with
yeah.
the phone.
Yeah.
Are you guys coming through? Bobby did not call. Should I call him?
The audio is
No,
kind
you're
of
not on
low.
speaker.
All right, so we got to speak up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead and kill your liver. Go for it.
Dead livers. Dead liver babies. The Great Tavern is actually the guy who, when I sent back the mics, he was the one who received him that. So yeah, he's actually got a Photoshop page where he does a lot of stuff on there. You know what I'm saying? See, I remembered, man. I remembered.
I got you. Well, bro, I hope you feel better, man.
You know what I'm saying? We're trying to make sure the next guest is gonna be here, but it sounds like there's some fuckery in the progress.
Nope, nope. All right, cool. Yo, feel better, man. Take care.
Boom. Our next guest is out the window.
So, unfortunately,
Yeah, I heard.
Kai has a massive toothache
Massive toothache.
that requires lots of medication, and he just got off of work.
Yeah, yeah. So medicate and come see us. What the fuck? You know. But it's all good.
He said he'll be back next week.
I'll be here tomorrow and after tomorrow. See, after this is the jump off. After this, we're going to be doing beats, or, you know, and as many people, and hopefully Jay Breeze comes through during the week, so we'll have another session there. You know what I'm saying? But every day, except...
Ask him questions. That's an interesting guy right there.
Yes.
Jay Breeze is a very cool, very interesting, very intelligent man.
And he likes to talk. You know what I'm saying? So we gonna get through all that, and we gonna get it popping. So what happened with Bobby? No good?
Well, Bobby's only coming with Guy.
What do you mean? So he ain't coming by himself?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, it's alright. Like I said, next week.
Tay what it take. You know.
Everybody's sick and shit. I'm sick too. I mean, I still fucking made
See,
it.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sick, but I made it. But whatever.
You know, but aside from that, where was we?
We were with
Genetics.
Genetics, yes.
So where would we even, like, if we start taking out Asperger's and we start taking out all these all these genetic traits that make insane people insane, and
there's some very interesting questions you have to ask. Like, I mean, there's some trains of thought that although it's not a perfect mutation, but there's a lot of benefits to having a disorder like, Asperger's or really, really high functioning autism. Like we said, Einstein and Isaac Newton, who shaped our reality the way we know it today, both more than likely suffered from something similar to Asperger's.
right.
If we start removing such things, we will probably have a much healthier population relative to how we understand psychology as we know it now.
Right.
But we'll also simultaneously potentially lose a lot of brilliant minds.
The great thinkers that have shaped our generation. So that's a double-edged sword.
Yes. Some people say that might actually be like the fuck ups in the next stages of our evolution. How like Asperger's is trying to essentially, how do I put this without sounding insane? Like I said, there's certain positives to it with all sorts of negatives. Right. But imagine that's like a miscalculation in our evolution, in the next evolutionary step to create our psychology.
Right.
To have these, savants that are insanely intelligent in certain aspects, but unfortunately not so much in others.
In others, right? That's
It might be the next step in our evolution, and the next step would be that savant without the negatives of what comes along with something like Asperger's or autism.
right. White Claw, the unofficial sponsor of the GodMode podcast.
Pay me.
Pay me now. You know what I mean? But it's a very crazy thing to actually think about, because it's like,
Well, at the very least, though, we'll get rid of other
right, the other genetic stuff, that's
heart defects,
heart
cancers.
defects and all that kind of stuff, yes, but like within 10 years, if we're gonna approach Gattaca, we have a fucking problem.
I don't think so. I think Gattaca is a solution. As much as the Gattaca, by the way, is easily my favorite movie of
Sure
all time.
is.
Easily.
Watch Gattaca.
Yeah, watch Gattaca. I'm not gonna say it's gonna change your life, but it's very interesting.
It'll at least reshape the way you think about
Yeah.
life. You know?
Now, there was like an underdog story there where he's the one that wasn't genetically modified to be perfect in some sense, but he
Right.
still, he
tried,
strived and he tried
yeah.
and he made it in some sense, in some way, and everything else. But in the bigger picture, if we're
Did he really make it, or did he
It
cheat
does-
the system and make the system imperfect?
in the bigger picture, he doesn't even matter.
Right.
Because once everybody, because he was like one of the last generations
Correct.
that wasn't genetically modified.
Right.
Once everyone's genetically modified, we're just
Then
gonna
he's
have,
obsolete,
right?
sort of.
Say this was like 5, 6, 7 generations past his generation, right? That means everyone has, no heart defects, has really good intelligence, or capacity for intelligence, whatever the fuck that might mean. Has a very good athletic ability, no physiological defects, no psychological defects, whatever all of that might mean. It would, overall in the bigger picture, it sounds pretty good.
Right.
But we love an underdog story.
We do, but do you still think there will be great thinkers?
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely, I think they will. I think that's a step in the positive direction. As much as I root for the guy in Gattaca who's the underdog, in the bigger picture, I root for that system. We should move with the times, evolve with technology, embrace what that means for our species,
Yeah.
and just become better and better and better.
I'm one of those for embracing, like, just like you said, plug me in, like, I'm ready. I'm ready for that, just because maybe we are the dying breed of using this thing as a tool. The ones I'm not so sure about are going to be the children that are born into it.
Into the tool. They're integrated with
Right.
the tool.
So to them, it's a lifestyle.
They're going to be so far superior than us.
Right, but then when you unplug them,
But they wouldn't be unplugged. That's the situation. The new society, the new infrastructure of society would be everyone's plugged in. Everyone will have information at their fingertips. It would be like what they call a connected brain, a mass brain.
Right.
It'll be almost like an entire species becomes its own computer, because we're all interconnected. We're all like a singular neuron that's connected to each other via our technology.
right. I mean, so far, these are like these podcasts and everything that we're doing here is kind of like an attempt, I would say, or the early stages of doing that, sharing information and all that kind of stuff.
Now imagine you can instantly share information with someone across the world in China without even having to contact them. You process some kind of information and it's instantly available for
they'll
them.
Already know it.
Exactly.
That right there is some shit.
A hive mind.
Hive mind
brain.
mentality. Yes, that's some shit that would propel us to, I think, an interstellar level. I think that
would be much more productive. Would be much more efficient. I think individuality will take a blow potentially.
Yeah, big time.
Probably will. I don't want to say necessarily 100%, but like I can see how that would deal a very harsh blow to individuality.
Yes.
But simultaneously, it's like once society progresses into that stage, does it really fucking matter?
It doesn't. I think it would help us reach Civ 1. Because we're at Civ 0.
Yes.
Right now. And Civ 1 is actually the hardest thing to achieve. Civ 2 and Civ 3, if you have...
Yeah, like natural steps past it.
Right. If you have Civ 1... That's the building block.
The rest is cake.
That's exactly. That's the foundation, because Civ 1 is having a united species. Civ 2 is controlling your solar system and controlling your star. for energy production, and Civ 3, of course,
Galactic Civilization.
Is Galactic Civilization. And I think that we should, that this is why Musk is one of my heroes, because this is
and where you got all that information from, not just Musk. What was his name? Michio Kaku.
Michio Kaku
Knowledge
is a
bombs.
fucking personal hero of mine, along with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Read their books.
Oh shit. What is it?
They make it so easy.
They exactly. Listening to Michio Kaku, that was the first one to where I listened to it, and through just talking, never mind books and theories and bullshit.
He has a gift.
Yeah, this man made me understand what fucking gravity is, what space time is. It made it visualize it before he had that show where he was showing you the shit. But just listening to his lectures, and same with Neil deGrasse Tyson, it was something that, like, you can comprehend it.
It made it accessible.
They made it comprehensible to a mechanic from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? And it absolutely, like, blew my mind. And it's like taking LSD for the first time.
Yeah.
Once you take that shit once, your mind is expanded. That's it. And
you know what's actually interesting? Like the fact that you mentioned, just a mechanic from Brooklyn. You know who's one of like the leadest thinkers in theoretical astrophysics and physics?
who's that?
He's this dude that was, I think he's actually also from either Brooklyn or Queens, but he was a plumber.
Yeah.
He was a plumber, and he
Nice.
watched the lectures of Michio Kaku and a whole bunch of other people, and he ended up developing one of the leading theories of the universe today, the holographic universe. He developed it. It was a plumber. He's not an astrophysicist studying at MIT or Caltech or Harvard or Yale. He's just a guy
Fixing
toilets who educated himself, watched lectures, listened to lectures, read books, and from the comfort of his living room
wrote up a theory
that is a leading contender for what the universe is.
That's insane. That's so awesome. That just says that.
I'm sorry, man, I don't remember your name, but if people Google, they'll find it.
Yeah.
The holographic universe,
Plumber.
probably New York.
Yep. That's so awesome. That just says that anyone can really have a theory.
If the passion is there,
Right.
if you sit your ass down and you do what you gotta do.
Just like we built this lab, son.
That's right.
And right now I'm like, honestly, I'm enjoying myself a lot doing this,
And feeling a little
yeah, a
little buzz.
a little ripe with the White Claw, a little ripe
Pay
with
me.
the White Claw. Yeah, pay me twice. Listen, Joe Rogan, you're one of the biggest influences that I personally have. As you can see, I got the.
I loved you before your podcast.
No question. Funny fucking guy. Let me tell you some shit. Name drop.
If you never watch news radio, watch news. It's not for everybody. It's a cool show, but Joe Rogan got one of his starts in media over there.
Right.
It was like a sitcom with one of my favorite comedians of all time, Phil Hartman. He was on Saturday Night Live.
Okay. Yep.
Very sad story. Look it up. Also very interesting. It was like a murder-suicide with his wife. Shot him in front of her kids, and like a really, really sad, crazy story. It was really, really hilarious. But he shared the sitcom stage with Joe Rogan back when he was very, very young and just starting out in media.
And then he started out and then UFC would not be the same without Joe Rogan. Let me tell you some shit, and when he started, like, I caught on late when he started doing his podcast, and I guess for the better, I would say, because it influenced me a lot, because I would watch that for fun, and I'm going, damn, man, that's definitely some shit that I would like to do with my friends, you know what I mean, and just kind of, it's almost a tribute to Joe that, we got the red curtain right there, you know what I'm saying? The red curtain, that's hanging there, you know what I mean? The format may be a little different, but, at the end of the day, it's all the same. So,
thank you for inspiring.
Shit, yeah, bro. Shit, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I might take up archery and some shit.
Oh, you should. That shit is so fun. Do you remember Marina?
Yeah. Tell me she's an archer.
No, she's not. But there's this guy that she knew, an older guy. She basically, it was like grandpa, essentially. And
right.
he lives in PA, I think in Lake Harmony.
Okay.
I'm sorry, man, I don't remember your name. But he was a competitive archer, not for game, but for like targets and stuff like that. And those big bow companies that develop bows go to him. He'd like sponsor him essentially.
No shit.
And he had a bow that I got to shoot that was basically like the top of the line, most technologically advanced bow on the market. It was like a $10,000 bow.
What?
Or something, and it had all the sights and all the counterbalances. It was super lightweight, made out of titanium and carbon fiber and all this other crap, and it is super fun, man. Shooting a bow is very cool.
Well, see, I'm into firearms. I enjoy guns, and so for me, anything projectile based is kind of fun.
You would love it. You would love it. We need to get a bow, even if it's a cheap piece of shit. We need to go up to PA. Go to shout out to Lake Wallenpaupack. Go up there.
Wallenpaupack, swollen nutsack.
We gotta shoot the bow a little bit.
I'm with
it's fucking dope.
I'm with that. We got a tree we can aim that shit right at. Sorry for tree people. We're gonna shoot trees and whatnot, but
we can get some targets. We
could. I'd also like later on would love to get into firearms heavy.
That's fun too.
Yeah, I've been into firearms for the bad ideas over the years, but like there's just something in it that pleases me.
Well, they exist and they're around, and you need to have a healthy respect for them. I think everyone needs to know how they function, how they operate, how to deal with one, how to avoid one, how to everything regarding them, because they're there and they're around, and you need to be aware.
You charge a guy with a gun, you run away from a knife.
You shouldn't just ignore them. Or, and this is a whole other conversation regarding banning them and all that other stuff. Like, they're not going to go away. I'm just going to say that right now. They're not going to go anywhere.
In regards to the banning, look, I'll say this shit. Things that kill people are always going to exist. The gun don't shoot itself, Pop. It just doesn't. So, by banning the gun, you're going to turn into London.
You're going to turn it into Mexico. Mexico has some of the strictest gun laws on the planet. Yeah, and they have some of the worst gun crime on the planet.
When you restrict gun laws, you're restricting legal gun owners. That's where the politics go sideways for me.
You strengthen the black market for them. The criminals who don't follow the law will still have them.
I can go a few blocks from here and get a piece, that's got bodies on it. So... don't tell nobody. But like the reality is, I can attain a firearm even if
it was illegal.
In fact, all of my firearms were not registered. Okay, so
of which none are owned anymore
or exist anymore. Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
There are no more firearms.
There are no more firearms, but they did exist at one point or another. So, and I think that. In regards to that whole thing, again, if you ban guns, you're going to get what's going on in London. London has the highest knife attack rate. They don't have guns. Like, they do, but it's not,
right.
It's stellarly more
they'll
rare.
Use a knife or a stick.
Yeah.
They'll sharpen a stick and stab you.
Those guys are into knife. They're into knife crimes, and the murder rates and all that good stuff is all there. So... I don't think restricting firearms would.
It won't do shit.
No, I think proper education and proper mental health.
Exactly.
Proper fucking mental health, because anyone can go on a fucking rampage.
Education is the answer to all of our problems.
What I'm saying? It is. It really is, and we're lacking that over the course of these few generations. I look at a lot of the kids nowadays, and it's just like, specifically here, because when you compare it to like a Japanese school, is totally different. The way they have it mapped out in regards to the start of education, the love for education, the love to learn, it was mad different than what we have it here. Here we kind of like get up and I don't want to go to school, Pop. Them kids, they want to go to school. They get up and
teach me, sensei.
Yeah, they throw them uniforms on and they, they get in there. They want to.
And the culture speaks for itself.
Right.
You look at Japanese education and Japanese students, and look at our students and our education
As
system.
you should. You know, like
I broke the seal. I'll be right back.
broke the seal. Oh God.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. You know, so so the education form in and of itself is a lot different, and therefore, like, we need to start looking at that a little more intuitively as to how we can teach the next generation that learning is fun, right? But a lot of our education standards, as it may be, is teaching factory workers. That's what we have now, is we teach a factory worker. We teach this person to push a button and do a particular task, and that's the bottom line. See, over there they do it a lot differently. The first couple of years of schooling in and of itself is they just teach you how to be clean, how to make sure your environment is clean, how to, like, you know, respect stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it goes into that, and then maybe 2-3 years into that is where they start introducing, like, well, what are you good at? What are you into? That kind of thing. And it branches off from there, and, like, okay, little Johnny's good at mechanics. Let's put him into this. You know, little Susie's good at math. Let's put her into this. So they kind of aim these people to develop for themselves, and it, you know, I think it produces a much greater human in that respect. I was just saying, like, the way that, like, Japanese culture would teach, the way they start teaching as a fundamental. The first thing they do is, like, they make sure for the first couple of years they don't do any kind of math, and
They do social skills.
exactly how to keep your place clean, how to, you know, how to keep
to
yourself
interact
clean,
with your
how
peers.
how to interact, how to do
With
all
your
of that.
elders, with
Right.
authority.
Right. And then after that, they'll start branching off, like, little Johnny's good at mechanics. We're going to put him this way. Little Susie's good at math. We're
No,
going to put her
all
that
of this
way.
has its own drawbacks. If you look at
Absolutely.
Japanese society,
Their suicide rate is very
suicidal,
high.
Exactly.
And their suicide rate is in conjunction with their productivity. A lot of them feel if they're not productive enough that they should kill themselves.
Well, we need to take the positives.
Right.
We should do what Bruce Lee said to do. Bruce Lee was a genius, by the way.
I think he still is.
Take the good, flush the bad, better yourself.
I'll drink to that shit. It's all love. It's all, you know, definitely drink.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Bruce Lee and all that shit, there's this new show on Netflix that just came out called something about...
The way he did his movies.
It wasn't about Bruce Lee. He was just mentioned in it. It was about the history
Of Japanese
of
movies.
Kung Fu
Kung Fu
movies,
movies.
Chinese.
Yeah.
like, a
I
lot of them
seen
were
that
Chinese.
shit. I seen that
You
shit.
saw it?
Yes.
It was
But I
so
didn't,
good.
like,
Loved it.
see it. I just saw it.
I loved it. It was amazing.
I was too busy playing my Modern Warfare. And get my AK leveled up. You know. Yeah, like
Gun education.
gun,
Modern warfare.
well, I gotta say though, they're a little bit off in their whole trajectory of it, man. Some guns they have on there aren't nearly not as good as, like, what they should be. Their stats are off, like, for sure.
Guns in real life have stats. I got you.
Shit, you got me
I
there.
got you.
You got me there.
I
You got me
got
there.
you.
Guns may not have stats. It's the user behind them that does. Yes. But I mean, to a certain degree, they might have stats, like, in regards to recoil and control or whatever. But, yeah, in reality, it's the shooter that makes most of the difference.
What do you call it? There was this female gunslinger back in, like, the early 1900s, late 1800s, something like that.
Right.
She was using like one of those old school rifle Smith and Wesson.
Smith and Wesson, baby.
I don't even remember if that was the company or not, but it was, basically one of those really old school rifles from the 1900s. Exactly.
Them kind of Jones.
And she was an ace marksman that was able to do all sorts of crazy ass shit, and she didn't need a high tech M4, M16, AR-15, any of that.
That would have just made her sharper.
It's the shooter.
Yep.
Know your tool.
I totally agree with it. Well, a lot of the army guys, they refer to it as their instrument.
Their instrument.
Yeah.
Tool, instrument.
Yeah, same shit. Like they would say, like, because I was looking up like their fighting style and
very tool driven, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll do everything they can. Like the guy will say, I will do this and this and this.
To get to my weapon.
To get to my instrument.
Right.
And then to revert to
whereas, like, you look at any, like, Southeast Asian or Asian military or even, like, Soviet military, there's, lots of hand-to-hand and stuff like that where they'll knock you to the floor and wrestle you and then, like, break your neck. Whereas, like, the Green Beret or something like that, some
any
spec
American,
ups, high-level American soldier, it'll be like,
he'll
do this and that.
He'll kick you far enough away to use his gun and lick shot.
Make distance and then take a shot. Right. Exactly. Very, very different kind of approach.
It is. And then when they compared the two, because they were saying, Spetsnaz will,
kick everyone's ass.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Spetsnaz is the shit.
They are, though. But in reality, it's just different.
I'm biased. Daddy was Spetsnaz.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. But on some real shit, it's just a different investment. In a Russian soldier, they'll invest a lot into the actual soldier.
Yes.
As opposed to the American soldier, they'll invest into a lot of the technology that the soldier has access to.
Which is, again, it's like it depends on the context. Both are extremely valuable.
And effective.
Right, because the kind of tools and technology we have now is like, video game level. We have drones telling us exactly where the
Predator
bad guys
drones,
are.
Pop, they'll fly them in and they'll send a bomb up your ass.
But then in that moment where that technology is now missing, you have the Spetsnaz guy who
will dead you with a spork, bro.
Right?
He'll kill you with a spork.
You just fling a fucking toothpick from 100 yards away.
Right, and then that shit'll land in your eyeball because that's most effective. And that would be the difference, I guess. But in today's world where technology is functioning, they kind of act on an equal keel. But I'm always that doomsday guy. Like, what happens when you EMP everybody, bro? What happens when the drones go offline, Pop? What are you going to do then?
Call Spetsnaz.
You're right.
You call Russia. You call Russia for help.
Listen,
Oh, your technology does not work. Huh?
Don't worry. We will take care of you.
I will help. I kick door. I kick door.
Kick door now. But, in regards to Russia, I gotta say, man, they're doing some, like.
Yo, Chev, I don't think we know what the fuck they're doing.
Well,
they're mad secretive.
From my interactions with certain people, I have. Yeah, so I have been I've saturated the new understanding of Russian culture, let's say. They're doing some shit like, brother Putin, much as I say, he's a tyrant dictator, all that shit. Let me tell you something. He's done some crazy shit for that country. Like because when the fall of the Soviet Union happened and shit, it was like all government industries were available for purchase. That's what happened. So when
privatization?
When the whole shit collapsed. So a couple of guys came in who had money, bought them for pennies on the dollar. That's how you have what an oligarch is. There's people like, I'm saying, hey, Slava, you want to buy all of the steel industry in Russia for like 60.
Sure, Rockefeller.
Yeah, for 60 grand, son. You know what I'm saying? And you buy that shit, now you control that shit. So they did that, and then they started doing all kinds of, fucked up shit during the 90s that basically crippled that whole nation. So now comes Brother Putin, who is ex, KGB and shit, who still has that hive mentality of like, what's up? We're one nation, blah, 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 blah. And he basically forced all of them to throw in money. That's what happened. And the ones that didn't, they got punished for it. There was one billionaire.
Putin kicked door.
Yeah, he kicked door hard. And he basically forced everyone to throw down and say, like, yo, this shit is happening with you or without you. And right now, as it sits, if you're like a citizen of Moscow or whatever, shit like there's a lot of stuff towards the new generation, a lot of stuff towards new kids. Like, let's say, you know, your girl have a kid, boom, they give you a bigger apartment. You have 2 kids, they give you an even bigger apartment. Give is the question.
So communist.
It is, but you still pay for it, right? But they just give you something bigger. Right now, we're talking about regular citizens, people who can't afford, let's say, to get something bigger. Now, birth covered, and that's like 60 G's at the end of the day to have a kid, you know, in our standards. That is covered. After school programs, which is a lot of where the money goes on any kid, is, you know, if you're trying to, you know, make this kid some kind of educated, you know, you need after school programs of some sort. Swimming and fucking whatever the fuck you extracurricular activities, all that shit is covered by the state, son, today, right now. So
they do a lot of good stuff. So what Russia does,
they're really trying to bring back nationalism. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But aside from the political dogma of what that nation is a lot of them are dreaming of the old Soviet era. A lot of them say, look, man, I'll go back to this shit at any point in time. And then they'll say some shit like, oh, well, you know, like if you're a doctor, let's say, you ain't going to make money if you're working under the Soviet system or whatever. Well, the way they do it today is, let's say you're a doctor, you're a therapist, right? So you have your city practice or you work for a hospital. And that's the requirement
mandated,
of you,
yeah.
Right? But then you have your private practice
where you can supplement,
where you can make bread.
Right.
So if somebody comes into your private practice and goes, you know, and you diagnose them and you go, yo, like, this is some shit, you know, like I have this and this and this. And you go, yo, that's some shit you can't afford right here. Listen, next week you come through my city office. I'll take care of that. So it's like the ones you can crack them. The ones you can't, you still take care of
help them
because you're doing your nationalistic minimum in order to sustain the system.
Right. So all that shit is dope. The only problem with that is where the problem with Russia comes along, and the kinds of things that Putin does is there's a lot of good, like what you said. What happens is when there's a certain population that gets in the way of that progress, they just get paved over. That's where the drawback comes in.
What do you mean by that? Exactly?
Like, for example, say, you know, that whole city thing, et cetera, the government covers it, and we need to open up a new city hospital, right? To make sure that there's enough hospitals in the city. Right. But there's no room. And the only way we can get room is we have to
leveling this apartment building.
Exactly, which has a whole bunch of private residents who have already invested.
You know what they do?
They'll
move them.
They'll relocate them, but it's to the discretion of the government. It's not necessarily worth the same amount that you put in. Like, a lot of people get fucked over in the cause of progress. So
well, that's everywhere though when you think about it.
It's a little different here, but that's why over here it's a little bit more stagnant. You'll get more progress in some areas, but with some suffering. Like, that's what there's always a give and take.
Yes. Agreed.
So there's like a lot of benefits to the way Russia does it, but there's always also a lot of drawbacks.
That much drawbacks that come with it.
And then in the United States, it's the same thing. There's a lot of benefits in terms of social services. They try not to, you know, to the best of their ability, fuck over people. But we're very slow to get things done. We're very inefficient in the way that we implement our laws and everything else because we have to be very sensitive and PC and everything else, which is, you know, in one sense it's very good, but in the other sense,
well, in our case, it's a lot of governmental bodies that have to agree with it. That's why the process is stagnant and it takes so long.
It's slower and it's not.
But in that respect, I think it's refined more. By the time it actually does get shit out of the system, it's refined by all of that process.
Right. The only problem is it took that long.
It took that much longer.
That's the give and take. So there's a positive, there's a negative in both cases. Right. Some has more suffering, but slightly faster progress. The only problem with Russia is, there's a problem with resources and,
Sure.
and international support, et cetera, et cetera. But then, United States is a problem not necessarily with resources, but now it's a problem with political correctness and social services and everything else. So it ends up being bogged down a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot more involved, a lot more talking. It's a little bit slower. Like
Well-
the democratic system is considered, academically as the slowest government system in
Absolutely,
existence.
because there's so
Like
many.
nothing gets done.
There's so many people involved.
Right.
That,
And then hopefully by the time it gets done, it's done right. But then, like, if there's a mistake,
then
you
they're
have
gonna have to shut it down and go again.
and again, that whole fucking process
Right.
starts over again. It
Right.
takes forever. It's really inefficient. There's a lot of stagnation, a lot of headbutting. If one
Right.
person doesn't agree with someone else, there isn't an overruling, oversighted,
And
I
that's
guess
in
I'll
a-
say like a tyrant. I guess.
And that's in a perfectly functioning democracy. Now, let me add the element of corruption.
Exactly.
And
And both of them
that's-
have that also.
Of course. And that's when it comes to, like, this politician being paid to, like, not vote on something that's going through,
Exactly.
and that's when it becomes ever more stagnant.
Right. Politics is difficult, and it's not as simple as everyone makes it seem on TV. They're just trying to buy your vote. There is no simple solution to any of the problems that you guys are asking for, or that I'm asking for, or anything else. The whole thing with, as much as I love Bernie and everybody else, and
There's
what
problems. There's big
I
problems.
want, everything that
with
they
anything.
want is not as simple as what they say it is on
Yeah,
TV. and
education
interview.
for all. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
let's just do it. Okay, yeah, okay. Try to actually get it done.
Right.
Let me see how you're gonna do it. So again,
At
it's not
whose
that I don't want it.
expense?
I do want it.
Yeah,
But simultaneously, give me an actual method and plan of how
Right.
that's gonna be done effectively, efficiently.
With ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works, then shit, implement it immediately.
So it's very easy to point fingers and say someone's better than someone else, but when you really get down to it and start doing the nuts and bolts of shit, that shit is hard.
Yes.
It's a very difficult job, and people should respect, to some extent, our politicians a little bit more than I think people
Then they're
deserve.
given credit for it.
Right.
Yep.
Because there's no such thing as an easy answer. The moment you say, let's say this country, it doesn't matter who the president is, whether it's Obama, whether it's Trump, whether it's Clinton, whether it's Bush, it doesn't fucking matter. You make a decision, half the country will hate you, and half the country will love
Yep.
you. And it goes both ways. From both sides. A Democratic guy will make a Democratic decision, and he will piss off half the country. And then a Republican guy makes a Republican kind of decision. I'm being very generalized here.
Sure.
Half the country will hate him.
Right.
And the whole point is that we have an entire country, and the ideal is for everyone to be happy and agree.
Right.
Try to make that happen.
Good luck.
Exactly. Let me see. If you do
Good
that,
luck.
I will bow down before you. You will be a fucking genius, and you deserve to run the world if you can actually pull that off.
Well, if Elon Musk goes to Mars, I think he'll have a good candidacy right there.
So we should have a technocratic, scientific government. That would also be very interesting. We haven't
That
had that
would
yet.
be interesting because we've never had that. Because a lot of the things that are presented in the technological world, if it boils down to politics, they have no idea.
Exactly, they wouldn't. And social kind of problems and social issues, they're going to take what I would assume on paper would be a very systematic, analytical sort of approach. They would crunch the numbers and see who would be affected the least. But the people that are going to be affected are still going to be affected, and they're going to cry out, and then there's going to be hate from that side, and they're going to flood the forums and the internet and the news and the media, and they're going to complain and whine and scream and yell, and there's going to be a lot of hate. There's going to be people that are going to hear that, and they're going to say, oh, these guys did wrong.
Right.
And then there's going to be a whole other side. They're going to say, oh, these guys are doing well.
Exactly.
And then exactly the same thing on the flip side.
Yep.
You
So,
can't make everybody happy.
It's impossible. You have to statistically do the right thing. See, I would say it's this.
And statistically doing the right thing, we'll still have victims.
We'll still have victims. Exactly. Well, a good example was when electricity was first coming into its own, right? You had a whole class of guys that used to walk around lighting the street lights. And they've done it.
And they're all out of a job.
They're all out of a job. The new thing that's
What about those poor street lighters,
right.
guys?
Right. The new thing that's going to be affected is truckers. With the self-driving technology that's coming out now, a lot of truckers are going to be put out of business.
Right. Now, should government come in and say that self-driving automated technology, which will save lots of money and be probably way better for the environment and safer, be banned and eliminated for the, sake of social justice regarding these truckers?
No, I think we should.
Yes, no, I couldn't tell you. I'm not smart enough.
Right. I would say the other way would be to provide re-education for said people for careers that are close.
And the ones that are, let's say, incapable or too old to pick up a new profession or don't have the capacity to do it.
Those are the ones that are going to suffer.
They're going to suffer.
They're going to suffer.
Point being, there will always be someone
always a
suffering.
percentage of people that are going to suffer. I would say...
And they're going to scream and yell injustice.
And statistically, I think if you can limit that to 5% out of 100, then it's an acceptable loss.
The problem is actually putting that into fruition, getting it to 5% out of 100.
That's the hard part.
That's the problem. Right. How do you do that?
And that's why politics are insanely hard to even...
Media and politicians oversimplify all of the problems that you guys hear them talk about. So everything is oversimplified.
So that you can digest the way they want you to digest it.
Because they want your vote.
Of course.
The Democrats, the Republicans, they're all the same. Their livelihood depends on your vote. This is how they feed their families. This is how they make a name for themselves. They all have also ambitions, and they strive for success and power.
There's private agendas on top of their political requirements.
Show me any completely selfless politician, like legitimately selfless, and you would have to be able to prove that to me also. And again, I will bow down to that person and I will say, you're fucking Jesus. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you're that guy who should be leading us, but I can almost 100% guarantee you that you're going to be hard pressed to find that individual.
That's why Elon Musk should run for president.
He's going to have his own agenda also. He's going to make a lot of mistakes. The point is that you put Elon Musk into presidency, and he's going to do some amazing things that I'm going to love.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a whole large population of people that are going to hate his fucking guts.
Of course.
And those are the people that you're going to hear on TV.
Yep. Because they're going to put them into light because that sells views.
Yep.
That sells, bad news sells, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, controversy sells. That's how most reality shows are.
That's how news works, man.
Right.
Why do you think most news is bad?
There is no good news.
It's sensationalist.
Right.
It's terrifying. It's fear. It's sex. It's, all the crazy shit that we don't want to look, but we sort of peek at it anyway.
Like, no, I got to take a look at this.
Yeah,
this
I need
horrible.
To look anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, this is bad.
But I need to watch.
I got to watch it till the end, but this is bad.
Kind of like award shows. Yeah.
Yo, on some real shit, we're going to wrap this bad motherfucker up right now. Thank you for being on the first episode of the GodMode.
It was my
podcast.
pleasure. I hope I have not made a fool of myself
you
too
have
much.
made a complete fool of yourself tonight.
That's also, as long as you guys were entertained, that's all I care about.
Are you not entertained?
I'm not claiming to be anything except for the random things that have accumulated in this silly mind of mine.
Yes.
And I will share it with you guys as often as I can. Sometimes I'll be wrong.
Often
I will be wrong.
every Friday is the SL show. Is going to be the SL episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're going to name Friday after me. That's dope.
Friday is going to be
honored.
The SL episode.
I'm honored.
You know what I mean? So every Friday we're going to try to get into some bullshit like this. Next...
And I hope you guys have a laugh at our, especially my stupidity.
Well, next week he's going to bring his machine in, and maybe we're going to attempt to make a beat in tandem.
Yes.
So
that will be fun.
Yeah, we're going to try to do that.
Less politics, less religion,
and more music.
We didn't even do religion. Oh my God!
We have to have a religion episode. Let's keep that one for
another episode.
Yeah, for another episode. We're gonna get into the philosophicals on it, but yeah. Thank you so much for being here tonight for the pilot episode of the GodMode podcast. You know what I'm saying? This is the first test drive of the new rig, and I think it has gone spot on.
I believe so. I had a blast. This was really fun, and I love the new setup. I think what we've done is great.
Yep, and I know y'all can't see most of it, but like
we shed blood building the studio. Literally, we have blood on these floors.
There's blood on these floors
in the process of constructing all this.
Yes, indeed. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. Catch the aftermath on YouTube, GodMode Studios, and catch me tomorrow when we're gonna make some instrumentals. And so on and so forth. Thank you so much for chilling. Peace.